And so I'm going to start with this. The first question is how to select the right questions. And so this comes iteratively with a lot of practice. And so I want to flip the thought process on this. I don't want you to think of this as selecting questions. I want to consciously think of this as leaving questions. And so every time you get stuck in a question which is difficult, that every extra minute you spend on that is going to kill. And then the pressure starts increasing for subsequent questions. So make it a habit to think of this process as something where you make it that you are clear that you're leaving questions and not selecting them. So when you're thinking about topic-wise strengths and weaknesses, we're saying speed time distance is a strength, geometry is a gigantic strength, pipes and cisterns works, but trigonometry and coordinate geometry are not areas of strength. So tell yourself that every question in a segment which is not your area of strength, you will leave, but not the converse. Don't battle by telling that there is one section where you're a top dog and that completely kills performance. You should be as happy as possible when you're leaving questions. That is very, very, very vital. So keep it in mind, the joy in leaving a question, that is going to drive your performance more than anything else. And so every time I take a mock CAT, if I leave a question, I'm thrilled. I tell myself, suckers, they're going to try this one and get their fingers burnt. But I find students always have a reluctance to leaving questions, and that's a complete nightmare, because every time you hang on to questions and keep on trying them, you're running into trouble. So keep it in mind, you should merely leave. Have a leave strategy, not a selection strategy. And this works across the board, not just for quant, for DALR and verbal as well. So I'm going to go section wise, what should be the strategy for verbal, quant, DALR as well. Before that, I'm going to start. See, there's some question that's already there. Now, the next question that seems to be reasonable is how to plan for quant, DALR, and verbal separately. Right? So, quant, leave merrily, select only the topics that you're comfortable in. Have a set of rules for leaving questions. What do I mean by that? I generally leave questions from coordinate geometry. I just don't like that topic. I generally leave any question from speed time distance. I think that speed time distance is a simple topic, so the questions might be tougher. I don't want to get suckered into that. I leave any question which on the screen goes for more than 5 lines. I can't be arsed with reading 5 lines of a question and figuring that out in the first iteration. So I have hard rules for leaving in quant. And in quant, I want to attempt almost everything. That's what I think is my strong suit. But even there, I'll keep dumping. I'll keep leaving questions left, right, etc. I don't want to get suckered into a question. And that's the idea for quant. What do we do for DALR? Again, if I get the hang of the data, if I look at the data presentation, I spend about a minute and a half on looking at the data. I just sit back, stare, and see, look, oh, that's interesting. This is a growth. That seems to be the best division. This is a poor division. So that's a huge growth rate right out there. And if I can find that sense of where the data is, then I'll try. Otherwise, I'll dump in DI. I am happy more with the interpretation question than with the computation question. So I have a bias towards questions that sound tricky, but where I don't have to multiply and divide too much. And that is my DI strategy. For logical reasoning, I have a very clear cutoff time. In about 3 minutes, if I'm not going anywhere with the puzzle, I'll dump it. So if in 3 minutes I'm not there halfway across, getting close to the answer, I'll dump that. LR can sink you if you don't dump early enough. So in LR is like one of this fabulous Sisyphus type thing where you always feel like in the next step the whole thing is going to fall in place, and then you can answer all 4 questions. But you need to be very careful. So anywhere where you feel like you're going to get suckered into it, you should dump. And so you should have a very hard rule for LR. I've done mocks where I've dumped LR completely after 4 minutes. I finished the mock and then I see that I was actually this close. Another half a minute and I would have nailed it. But I don't mind that because I've built in that leaving discipline. I know that I can leave if I don't go anywhere. And that discipline is very, very, very vital. Where you say, look, this is my rule, I'll stick to it. I get it wrong this mock, I don't care. That is my rule, that is my bloody rule, I will stick to it. So LR puzzle, 3 minutes, I'm not going anywhere, dump. 7 minutes, I've not yet answered a question, dump. I'm not going anywhere. You might always feel that you're this close, but you're not. The question is telling you that there's some other catch somewhere as well, so dump it. And so in verbal, A couple of rules. They would never want to finish with an RC. It's extreme pressure reading a giant passage with 6-7 minutes to go. The type of question that I don't like or like the least is sentence elimination. Which sentence does not fit into the paragraph? I'll keep a couple of them for the last 3 minutes. Apart from that, the strategy for that section is I want to see every non-RC question. I want to nail the simplest RCs, and then I want to keep sentence elimination for the end. That's my plan. So I'll mix up my RCs. I like starting with RCs, but then after two RC passages, I'll go to some other question, sentence correction or para jumble, and then do a couple of more RCs and then see where I stand. I don't want to end with an RC. I always end with sentence elimination. In RC, the funda is very simple. The first paragraph, if I understand, if I get it, if I get a feeling for where this is going, then I'll read the passage. I never see questions. I always read the passage and then the questions. If I like that topic, if I can see what is there, then I'm good. If I get the first paragraph, then I'll go ahead, read it completely, try all the questions. But the first paragraph is tricky, vague, tough, with a philosophical idea that I don't get intuitively. I'll dump it. So my RC decisions are usually taken within about 30 seconds. That 30 seconds, I wholeheartedly sink into it. So now, going on to a number of questions in each section. For 99th percentile, it's a high target, not a modest target. For getting 99th percentile, in quant, you'll have to roughly go for 24 and get 22 right or thereabouts. Right? For DILR, you're going for about 16 and getting most of them right. For verbal, you're going for about 28 and getting maybe 4 to 5 wrong, not more than that. And so that is the benchmark based on the CAT we have seen in the last 2-3 years. Again, this CAT could be far tougher, far easier, we don't know. But generally, the benchmark that we have seen, this is the idea. And so, number of questions that have been asked by I think, Abhijit. The question looking for roughly 24 for 98 percentile, 16 in DILR, and 28 in verbal. And with a very high accuracy rate on quant and DILR, and an okay-ish accuracy rate on verbal. Attempt sequence and verbal section, Rohit Dubey. As I said, I like starting with RC, never ending with RC. RC is the elephant in the room. 75% of the questions are going to be from RC. Start with RC, never end with RC. I like ending with sentence elimination because I rarely get them right. And if it is easy, I feel that I'm happy. I end on a right. If it is tough, I'll say, "Acha, try nahi kiya." Good. So I like the last 3-4 minutes to be sunk into that. Otherwise, I mix it up. Super. Next question: How can I solve quant questions well? I can solve quant questions while analyzing the mocks, but not in the test itself. So this is a big factor, not just quant, across the board. My test performance, I underperform vis-a-vis what I otherwise do. Right? So, bunch of reasons could be underpinning it, but most of them come under two main categories. One is stress, other is fatigue. Right? Stress and fatigue. You're carrying a certain amount of exam tension, and that makes you freeze. You're not natural. You're not flowing into it. Take lots of marks, and that'll get eased out. And so, whenever you're going into the exam, your mock performance should be better than your otherwise performance. Your adrenaline should work for you, not the tension. So make sure that you have that idea in mind where you're saying, I'm going for this. What underpins that stress is too much is riding on this exam. And so don't have your other scenarios land you in that sequence. What do I mean by that? Don't burn your bridges with office. Don't screw up your accounts. Don't quit your job. If you do all of these, then the pressure on that CAT day increases. You feel like, aaj to crack karna hai aur kuch bacha hi nahi hai. You can't afford to be in that situation where you say, look, I need to crack this because I have nothing else going for me. And that increases the pressure. So make sure your settings are fine. You should go to this exam saying, oh, I'm going to crack it. If it doesn't work, big deal. My life is good anyway. Somehow you have to gear yourself up and go in with that attitude, that mastery. So you have to go in with this feeling of, good, let it come. If it comes, brilliant. If it doesn't, then chuck it. Dekh lenge yaar, kya farak padta hai? You have to tell yourself that, so that you have to de-emphasize the exam and lower down that stress number very consciously. Continuously, you should beat down that stress. This is not such a big deal. Keep it in mind. This is not the life-changing exam that people talk about all the time. This is not. So keep that in mind. Going with the element of fun. Second issue, well, underperforming in mocks vis-a-vis non-mock is fatigue. Burnout is a very serious issue. This also gets restricted with kind of reduced with practice. But you take a mock, and then by the time you're in the 2 hour 10 minute mark, you're burnt out. You're completely dead in the water. There is no gas in the tank for the last 45-50 minutes. And so you make a bunch of errors, you get questions wrong, which would have otherwise gotten right. Your brain just doesn't pick that new idea. You're reading through the question. Everything that can go wrong in terms of underperformance, intensity dropping, it keeps coming in the last 40-50 minutes. It happens, and that has got to be beaten down by taking lots of mocks. What works for me is consciously, I just tell myself that if this is happening, I take a deep breath and say, look, I'm switched on again, and then I go for it. This works for me at least. So I can sense that my intensity levels are dropping, my eyes are wandering, I'm reading through an RC passage, so seeing what it is. I've not picked the best method, I'm not multiplying well, I'm just basically, instead of operating at a certain level, I dip. And so I can sense it. If you take enough marks and practice, you sense it. So you switch off, take a deep breath, and then go for it. Bam, 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 bam. So that's what you need to do. And during the exam, you need to build this antenna where you say, look, I'm not at the top. So make sure you're ready to do that. And so stress and fatigue, two very important factors. You beat them down, then your adrenaline will drive towards you. And then adrenaline will be the big positive that has to be there in your marks. And so keep that in mind. The next question which I thought was interesting was, what is this mock cat analysis? Right? This is a very important idea. People keep saying analyze mocks to death. And so there are three aspects to mock cat analysis. Remember that. First one is the learning part of it. So you get stuff wrong, go through the solution in depth. You miss out on questions, go through the solutions in depth. The stuff that you got right, if you feel like that perhaps was a better method, go through the solutions. If somebody doesn't give detailed solutions, chuck that mock cat over it. Not worth it. And so learning is still vital. I've seen so many people keep on taking mock after mock after mock, but not really review and learn anything from it. So it's bakwas if you don't do that. So make sure that you review what you don't know. Remember that. Second thing is question selection. Every time you complete a mock, you should look at each section and then say, which are the 3 questions that I attempted that I should not have attempted. So you look at that and say, in this section, I'm going to find 3 questions that I should have actually dumped, but I ended up solving. Don't look for 3 questions to solve that you didn't see. Look for 3 questions to dump that you ended up trying. That's very vital. The 3 time-consuming questions or 3 stupid, irritating questions that you did spend 10 minutes on and maybe got 2 of them wrong, that is what you need to beat on. So if you take 10, 12 marks, you'll start really struggling to find those 3 questions. That is when your question selection is in place. And so make sure every time you finish a mock, you say quant, DILR, DIRC. What are the 3 questions that I tried that I shouldn't have tried? You keep doing this relentlessly, your question selection will improve. Third thing is strategy, overall strategy. Am I attempting in the right order? Am I getting tired? What are my careless errors, concept errors, fatigue errors? Where is my intensity dropping? Why did I spend 17 minutes in this RC passage? Why did my mind wander? Some of these, if you pick the right problem and just tell yourself that I'm not going to let my mind wander, I need to be careful, I just need to become more switched on, then you are good. The very idea where you say, look, my mind is wandering, I need to get switched on, that you're good. That will happen when you take the 6th, 7th mock where you're not getting tired. A bunch of processes becoming automated, then you're good. So you have to pick that. This is, you're getting tired. I used to play football. I can't say I used to be a football player, but I had very poor stamina. So my captain always used to glare at me and make me run up and down during the game because I was a midfielder. I had to run, but I didn't have the legs to do it. And he'd always say, most of it is in your mind. You stop for a second, then catch your breath and run again, you can do it. And so most of this fatigue stuff is in your mind. You tell yourself, look, the right now, another 40 minutes I can last, and you're good. You should be able to last. And so make sure that you have that you build that there. The fatigue is a big thing. Drop in intensity is a big thing. These are very vital factors. Work on them aggressively, very aggressively. Right. Next, I'm going to go after this question, which is also a very key point. I say, I screw up this mock. How do I pick myself up for the next one? Careful. People have screwed up cat. People have screwed up half their lives and still bounce back and wonderful things. It's a mark. I have a very clear blinkers on policy. All marks I did well on, they're now to me. Marks I did poorly on, either the paper was bad or I had some distractions or I was too tired. Pin it. It doesn't matter. So all the marks that go well for you are the marks that you need to care about. You need to keep in mind. Right. So don't let one mark performance get to you. The 2-3 marks back to back that are tanking, then you need to find a level and say, look, am I doing something fundamentally wrong? And then fix that. Slow down. Don't put pressure. Usually the mark pressure comes from other places. You've told yourself that you need to be 99.5, then you slip because you don't have the energy. But assuming you've got 99.5, you shouted against your boss and screamed at the secretary because you know you're not going to be there. You're at the point of quitting your job. So if you do all these things, then pressure increases. And so make sure that pressure from that is much lesser by working the entire environment. You have be as pleasant as possible, as happy as possible when you take them off. Eat well, sleep well, take it with full intensity, full seriousness, then you're good. And so then that pressure stress doesn't get to you. Then one underperformance doesn't matter. And don't interpret every single number. Last cat was 99, this cat was 72. At this rate, I didn't do more cats, I'll go to 0. Don't do that. Don't do that. Every data point does not require interpretation. You should have the confidence to say, I'm doing the right things. It'll go. It's not going to be one linear improvement 90, 92, 94, 96, 98, 100. It is not. And it will yo-yo. The pressure is to make sure that you have this temperamental soundness to hang in there. One more time. And so that handling that pressure is part of the process. Don't think of it as something else. Right? Then what else? I want to say this is across mocks. One mock I screw up, how do I bounce back for the next? It doesn't matter. You screw up 10 mocks in a row, it doesn't matter. You're taking so many mocks only so that your temperamental soundness gets slowly built. That's just like how your brain is a muscle, your temperament is also can be built. Keep fighting back. The bigger problem is within a mock, how do I bounce back? I know I tanked the second section. How do I pick myself up for the third section? You got to. Each section is a separate can. So make sure that you finish a section, take a deep breath, and say, I'm going to start all over again. The best example I know from a sporting parallel is this fabulous player called Virendra Sehwag. He get beaten outside off stump, beaten on the hook, beaten outside off stump, and hit the next 3 deliveries for 4. The guy has no memory of the previous delivery. He's a genius, not someone who's uncluttered because he's not sharp. He's consciously decluttered himself. And so great players like Rahul Dravid said they appreciate Sehwag's temperament because of the extent to which he's able to declutter himself. He sings songs to himself to clear his mind. At the point of playing, at the point of that instance of just batting, his entire mind is on just batting. You're going to hear so much of the strategy crap from all of us. Do this, you do that, plan karo, wo karo, intensity increase karo, stamina karo, do 3 mocks back to back, try different mocks, all of this from all of us. That your mind has this 43 inputs. But remember, your performance is in the end. At the back of your mind, there is this strategy planning thing. At the front of your mind, when you're actually solving that, if you're seeing 3 questions in one shot, you're dead. So, irrespective of what your overall strategy, plan, trend, temperament, character, all of that, in that moment, you've got to be doing only that question. And you cannot worry about what went before, what went after. So, you need to have switch off, switch on mechanism. And so, look at sportsmen. They do it a lot, especially sports that have a break in them. Look at what Nadal or Federer does. They do between the 2 games. Look at what someone who plays long innings like Alistair Cook or Rahul Dravid does in between overs, in between sessions during delivery. Apparently, Rahul Dravid has a simple rule. Every time after any break or any bowling change, he takes his guard again. So whatever it is, he'll take it again, mark it down again, and say, look, it starts all over again. And so after every milestone, internally, externally, Sunil Gavaskar used to say, I'm again starting my innings. And so you need to say, this is what I'm going to, this is my plan to switch off, switch on. So you're going to take 3 mini cats every time you go, not one overall cat for 3 years, 3 hours. So remember that. So you finish one section, erase that completely. Why this is particularly important? I've had lots of students who come and tell me that my second section was so bad that I switched off in my third section and I just tanked the paper. Once the results come, you realize that the second session was at 94%, the third one was at 78. That means the session has not screwed you over. You have committed suicide. That means the session that you tanked under the assumption the previous session was a goner is where you kill yourself, not in the middle session, but in the third session. And so that happens so frequently that it annoys the hell out of me. How does it matter? Don't analyze your paper. Don't have a strategy session running during your mock, during your CAT. All of this is to be in a state of fabulous readiness for the 3 hours. But nothing will get you the marks barring writing the answer and putting that in. So if this clutters you up, then chuck it, close the session, go and take a mock. Don't get carried away by the stat talk that you can't do the question after session after session. And so in terms of what I had another question from somewhere else. What is my approach? What do I think is my strength for CAT? Right? So I'm going to give you on some trade secrets. Right? So how do I what I think is my strength? Right? Extraordinary intensity. That is my only strength. Everything else I'm just about average. In quant, I conduct these sessions. The questions I have created, guys rip me. They are way quicker in solving questions that I have created than I am. So I'm pretty modest at solving questions quickly in quant. In DILR, I get stuff from, I'm not as quick as most of the guys. That's not my strong section. In verbal, I'm limited. My vocab is just modest. And so, but where I probably score in the exam is I start at a frenetic clip. I just go bam, 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 and I start. I don't have time to pause and breathe. So if there's a session that's starting, I go bam, 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 bam. I don't think about kitna attempt karna, kya difficulty hai, what is the plan, what am I going for, which section it is it easy, difficult. Remember, I'm taking it kind of for fun. So it's my job to do all this. But I realize that if I do all this during the exam, then I don't get an overall picture. So I will go there, bam, 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 bam. I don't think about anything apart from just solving for the first 35 to 40 minutes in each section. So I start a section, I go bam, 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 bam. I leave questions merrily. I leave at the slightest reason. On a whim, I'll read that. Read a question and say, this has the word that I don't like, I leave the question. And so I don't care about leaving question. I'm very intense like that. But I don't pause for a second for 40 minutes. And at the 40-minute mark, the session is going fantastically well. I'll say, look, up to I'm killing this. I'll attempt everything and bury this. If it's going okay, and it's tough, then I'll rejig and say, look, it is a tough section. I don't need to attempt 29 questions. Maybe 25 will get me to where I want to be. I'll pick and choose my battles. But all of that comes after 40 minutes of bam, 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 where I'm not thinking about anything. My inspiration is Virendra Sehwag. He's finished his innings before people realize how the pitch is. So he'll play at one extraordinary pace, and then we'll realize that a bit tough pitch, nobody else is able to play. But he plays with see ball, hit ball attitude. So you need to start at rock star pace. The second thing that I pride myself in is I also don't fret about one section after I'm done. I finish a section, I start all over again. I don't pause and think and gather my thoughts and evaluate and all that. Jump. One session is done. Go for the next one. Fine. So that is what I do. And I think the one thing you should do is crank up intensity by throwing yourself with the paper when you're beginning this. Right? What else is there? Other question. I get scared of taking a mock because my previous mock didn't do well. So this is a test of temperament. The entire preparation cycle is a test of temperament. They are not just testing how good you are in quant and TI and verbal. They are testing how good you can bounce back from a poor mock, how you can stand there in the face of average performances and still keep preparing relentlessly. So tell yourself that they are testing that. Become a masochist in terms of taking pain in poor mocks. There's practically no one who's gone to the IIM without getting backed in at least 4 mocks. By fact, I mean getting embarrassingly poor scores. I've known guys who have flirted with scores with overall score +3, -1 in single digits and still gone on to the best IIMs. And so it just doesn't fall in place. You're just getting whipped. What you need to tell yourself, I've got a poor mark. My first two sessions are bad. I think I will end up getting 60th percentile in the first one and maybe 40th in the second one. But today, this is the day where I say last mock was bad, first two sessions were bad. I'm going to continue to take this. In the next hour, I'll make sure that in the third section, I end up with 94th percentile to tell myself that I can screw two mocks and two sessions in a row, but still fight back. That's what you need to tell yourself, and doing that. Right. IM is a very interesting question. I face a problem of repeating my mistakes in case of harder problems, even if I understand the solution post-mock. A couple of things. One is the academic part of it. If you have made a mistake and you've seen the solution, that is the gap, I would argue that you should not just see that solution, but beef up your theory. So if it's quadratic, if it's a cubic equation, then you some of the roots you know, product of the roots you know, some of the roots taken two at a time. That part you didn't know. And you made a mistake with that, and so you didn't know there was a plus or minus in the exam hall. And then you took a chance and it turned out wrong. You've seen that solution, you've gotten it wrong, but that isn't enough. You had a gap to begin with, so merely the solution part might not fill it. So fill the solution, then do 3 more questions of that template from somewhere. Google and read how this theory comes. Why does that minus B by A, C by A rule work? If you reinforce one aspect in 2-3 ways, it falls in your mind completely, comprehensively. So it's a hard question, or you've gotten it wrong. The solution will just address that question. But if you see the solution, beef up a little bit of theory, do 3 more questions of that template, then it sits completely. So work on that. So if you've got a hard question, you've not done it a little bit wrong, go over it one more time. I'm unable to do complete RC in one go, so I tried once completing 2 RCs and switched to VA. See, doing a complete RC in one go is a problem with reading stamina. So my suspicion is you've read a lot of RC level passages, but never long articles. And so now switch off from complete RC mode, go online, go to the Atlantic or Aeon or Economist and read pieces that are 2000 words long, 2500 words long. Read research articles that are long and seemingly tedious. The more you read longer pieces, the more stamina you'll get for reading and understanding and comprehending. And that should be good enough to improve your stamina while reading a 500-600 word passage. What are the different mock sites that are there? And 2IM. So what do you expect me to answer? I love the 2IM mocks, but I think anyone should try mocks from at least 2 sources. That's what I tell all our students, 2IM students as well. So if you're getting 2IM mocks, you should try one more. At the cost of boosting my competitors and driving some traffic towards them. Of the other big 3, CL, Time, and IMS, I like IMS the best. They're consistent. They care about their solutions. They don't give phantom tough questions. They don't do freebies. They care about how their mock is structured. So I like IMS better than the other 2. Where to practice from for DILR? DILR is a big bugbear topic. For DI, I would say relentlessly work on staring at charts, making sense of the charts, getting an overall sense of how the charts work. And don't worry so much about computing, adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplying, finding ratios, percentages. You're going to be gifted an on-screen calculator. So don't fret so much about the computational aspect. Don't worry, don't jump into and say, what am I multiplying and dividing? Stare at beautiful graphs and say, what is the sense here? I forget the questions. I don't want to know the questions. What is the chart telling me? What is the insight here? Which division is doing really well? Oh my God, that is fantastic. If you look at Microsoft chat, there's a fabulous chat online, find it, which is the top 5 tech companies. I think there's, in some order it is Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft. It gives a breakup of their revenues and profits and all that. So you look at the chart, you'll see that Google and Facebook are the cooler companies, but Apple and Microsoft are rockstar. Apple is the company that for its current valuation that produces the maximum profits. Facebook and Amazon are not that profitable. Microsoft has the best mix. It has lots of businesses. I didn't know Microsoft had 5 big business divisions. So Microsoft is the safest bet because if one division cracks, something else will do well. But you look at those charts, stare at it for a long time, and then make your inferences and then read the piece around it. That's brilliant. So try as much as possible to stare and infer and gather insight, and not all the time on multiplying and dividing and finding. That is for DI. For LR, rank up variety. Our 2IM website gives a bunch of good questions with solutions. Try them. I like this website, Math is Fun. There's a bunch of puzzles which are old-fashioned, standardized, but good. I also like this book by George Summers. It's a simple book for about $100 you'll get online, Flipkart or Amazon. That is also good. Try that. So that is something that could be interesting. And so these are the two things that I would recommend. So George Summers, Math is Fun, and puzzles from across the board for LR. 1 second, you'll see this. I've completely learned the topic. I've completely finished the syllabus, but I'm not able to attempt the questions in mocks. So there are 3 parts to learning. One is learning the concept, the fundamental, learning what is the theory in this topic. 2 is the drill, the practice, doing a lot of questions to automate a bunch of process so that you just do naturally. If you do quadratic equation, you should look at the equation and know how you're factorizing and getting to the answer, not relearn and reapply every time. The 3rd is cranking up the level of difficulty to see how you can go for slightly tougher questions, how you can revisit fundamentals and all that. If speed is an issue, then you're not done enough drill. If difficulty level is the issue, then you're not revisited fundamentals and done tougher questions. If you're able to do nothing, then fundamentals are weak. So you have to do your diagnosis. So if you see any question in trigonometry, I can't even touch it, then you're in trouble. Learn sine, cos, tan from zero. So saying, look, I can solve almost everything in coordinate geometry, but everyone seems to be solving in a minute and a half. It takes me 3.5 minutes. That means you know the funda. You're applying it, slowly getting the hang of it, and then getting it right, which is good. But it's a starting part. You're applying, figuring out should run rock star speed. That'll happen if you do 60 questions. But it's a power of automaticity. So it's an interesting idea. So imagine you're learning to drive a car. First time you're learning, you drive for 7 kilometers, you'll be like dead tired. You'll be like, I just need to go and sit down somewhere. And it's very tiring to learn. But if you've learned, then your muscle memory kicks in. You know the gear movement, your accelerated brake clutch, it all happens automatically. You can see hoardings here and there, you can listen to music, talk to someone, and then do 150 kilometers because that set of muscles have become automated. That set of actions. You're not thinking, now I'm going from second gear to third. Your hand automatically does that. Okay, you're ready. You need to automate so many of these small processes in order to do that quickly and in order to not get tired. If your processes are not automated, then it's not just the speed, it's the fatigue that will kill you. The next question, when you have to be ultra switched on and go bam, 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 tired because even this has taken so much out of you. If driving takes so much out of you, how are you going to look for the maps and look at the place? So speed is issue, fatigue is issue, then do drill and fix that drill. If your level of difficulty, if you're saying, look, 10 levels of difficulty, anything up to 6, I'm good. 7, 8, 9, I always cap out. Then go revisit fundamentals, see tougher questions. Remember, if CAT has only till level 10, don't prepare for level 16 and 17. Don't spend gazillion hours on random websites and with extraordinarily tough books and all that, and just prepare for a level which is three levels higher than CAT. Stay relevant, but within that, pick the right set of tougher questions. That's important. Right. Possibility of completing complete syllabus in next 90 days. That is Anshuman Das. Definitely possible. 100% possible. Take it from me that someone can start today, finish all syllabus, take 15-20 mocks and do well. Right? So you have got to find the time, energy, motivation from somewhere to do it. I'm not much of a motivational speaker. I've not managed to motivate myself to do a bunch of things in my life. So I'm not going to give guff about Cassie, you have to motivate yourself. To each his own. Don't increase the stress by burning bridges anywhere. When stress kills you, then you can't get yourself motivated, you get tired. So don't do, I can tell you the list of stupid stuff that you shouldn't do. Screw over somebody in your college or office in the confidence that CAT to mili jayega. Underperform in something else because you're heavily reliant on CAT. Set ambitious targets and say, I'll finish 6 mocks in the next 4 days. All these are stupid things. It's the things that are going to break the system sooner or later. Don't do stupid stuff. That I can tell you. But how am I going to wake myself up and do a lot of questions? You have to find that motivation from somewhere. I'm sure there are lots of guys who do a good job of it. Not me. How to increase my speed? Drill away to glory. Lots and lots of questions, lots and lots of practice. Drill improves and automates processes. That will improve speed. So more stuff that you're automating on, better it is. Let me see if there are any other questions. How to prepare for LR with conferences? Is it worth solving Arun Sharma for one? I get asked this every now and then. Again, I'm not going to. I don't want to say stuff about a book someone else has written. I know a lot of effort must have gone into writing that book. The only beef I have with that book is that sometimes the level of difficulty is out of whack. The level of difficulty is so impossibly high that there will be no question in quant in the exam that flirts with that level of difficulty. So if you have a sense of what is CAT level, then pick up that book. Then you can say, this is CAT level, I'll try. You can say, this is not CAT level, I'll still try for the heck of it. And this is way too tough. Why should I spend time and waste my time doing that? Once you have that gear in you, where you say that I have a sense of where this level of difficulty is, then go for that book. If you don't have that, you can get intimidated. You'll feel like this must be easy, only I am getting it wrong. Dunia bhar ke logo will be feeling that this is too tough, they can't crack it. But everyone internally is only seeing their performance. And yes, you go, maybe I am getting it wrong, maybe guys are really good, maybe this is the level for CAT, maybe everybody is getting it right and I'm screwing myself over. So that creeps in if you don't know the level. So don't do stuff that will intimidate you. And frequently, some books go into that territory. So be careful about that. I saw a question about vocabulary. You build vocabulary by reading away to glory. Don't hard-boot vocabulary because there are no vocab questions in the exam. And vocab based is not such a driver for success. Knowing 3,000 new words is just not going to help you. It is not value for time spent. It is not a driver for cracking this exam. So if you have a word list in your place, keep it in a place where you can't access it, you just can't reach it. Read relentlessly. If you must build vocabulary, if you're particularly keen, then build it from a good app or good book, which is pleasant to read, like WordPad, ABC. So they give you the context and tell you 100 things. Any which way a good book to read, whether you're preparing for CAT or not. But it is absolutely not required for CAT. Quantitative aptitude for CAT, book on CAT preparation is not available. I didn't know it was not available. I'll speak to the publisher and I'll get it. I'll make sure it is available. A lot of questions from that book are anyway available on our website. I'm planning to make more questions available on the website. The website should be a decent enough proxy. Geometry and numbers, is there a specific strategy? Correct. There is a specific strategy for geometry and numbers, especially for geometry. Learn all the theory, practice, then see the proofs for the theorems. So I don't know how many of you have done basics in geometry. I want to talk about two simple ideas. In any triangle, sum of the three angles is 180 degrees. About 95 out of 100 students know this. So sum of three angles in a triangle is 180. Now, if you are in that 95 out of 100, think about what is the proof for this? Why is sum of angles equal to 180? And if you don't know, then find it today. Find the proof. You can stop out of this, open one more tab, say proof of sum of angles is 180, and find that proof. It's a wonderful proof. So as much as possible, hit the proofs for the ideas, the fundamentals, revisiting the basics in the second iteration. Because in stuff like geometry, particularly geometry, you have to place a mental cue to say, what should I be applying for questions like this? The first iteration, you learn angle bisector theorem and solve two questions in angle bisector theorem and practice 10 more in angle bisector theorem. Second iteration, when it's an open-ended question, you don't know whether you have to apply angle bisector theorem or similarity or talk about circles and do some construction. So it's not handed on a plate what you have to apply. That's very vital. So you cannot afford to have a one strategy thing because you can't say everything I'll apply angle bisector theorem. It won't work. And so you have to say, okay, this kind of question I got ripped. So for these type of questions where there's a triangle and a rectangle inside, I probably need to think about similarity. So similarity for these type. So you have to place those mental cues in your mind because the paper has now become open-ended. Likewise for number theory. When you're first round, you learn a funda and practice from that. Second round, you're doing a question, you have to figure out which funda to apply. So every time you apply a new funda, you should place a mental cue. say how many zeros, that means I have to think about factorials. And tell yourself and knock it inside. The more cues that you consciously put in, the more subconsciously stuff will go in. So you need to place those mental cues, especially for number theory and geometry, and you need to revisit for the whys. You've learned how angle bisector theorem can be applied. You should learn why angle bisector theorem is true. The proof for the underlying. That's very very vital. बस 100 percentile guarantee है the बात it doesn't 100 percentile apparently आजकल some guys don't even get calls, right? So with 100 percentile you have a kick-ass chance of going to a good college that you know, and with after that you still have to nail your interviews. When we guys were applying and doing our MBA, CAT accounted for a gigantic proportion of your entry process. The interview process was minuscule. But now these days interview weightages are high. So there is a certain CAT at which you can still get screwed over in all IIMs. You can get 99.95 and get screwed over by Ahmedabad, Bangalore and Calcutta after getting the call. Because quite a hefty weightage given to phase 2 of the process, your written assessment test and interview. They're basically saying CAT is but one input, not the most important input, it's not the most modern objective input, nothing, it's one input. तो अच्छा है तुम्हारा कैट, अब देखता हूँ कैसे बात करता है तू. So they want to start off with that and place more weightage on that. When I'm getting a series of questions on what to do for LRB, I already covered that in depth. So I'm not going to do it again. It's already there in this video. How do I read consciously the novels, blogs, and editorials? Read good quality stuff. You'll be able to read consciously. Find good stuff that you can read. We've got a bunch of reading lists for novels and blogs and articles on the web. They're good, fun articles to read. If you find the right things, then it's not tiring, it's not burning out. So it's like watching a good movie, you don't get bored, you don't get tired. Reading a good book won't tire. Make sure you pick the first few books to be smaller, simpler, pacey, so that you get used to that habit, and then you can crack on from there. But don't. If you pick the right books, the motivation will come. It's not unusual. It's not something extraordinary that you have to be gifted with in order to be able to read books, novels, websites. It is very simple if you find the right thing. So go to the right list and go there. FMS weightage to CAT is still 85%. Probably going to stay at the same level. They've not changed strategy for a long while. Don't see a reason why they have to change now. So I think it'll stay high. So if you have any holes in your CAT and you interview very badly, nail CAT and walking into a FMS. How to prepare for other MBA entrances like SAT, SNAP, IFT? Absolutely no difference vis-a-vis CAT. Your quant, DALR, Harvard is going to stay exactly the same. So make sure you prepare for this with intensity discovered. Two things that you need to worry about. For XAT, business decision making matters. So make sure you get quite some bits of practice for business decision making. That's important. Second thing, general knowledge section. Make sure that you spend some time exclusively preparing for the general knowledge section. General knowledge section matters and it's going to swing at least in few of the exams. CAT does not cover that, but take some time out, find a good website, go through that. It's on you. You can find good website sources and be switched on about current affairs for 6 months. Find that. But the core part of preparation, no difference at all between CAT, SNAP, IFT, NMAT, any of this. What else is there? Books for reading comprehension. There's a wonderful link they put for books and for novels and websites. Go through both. How can I grab the main idea from an RC and not get lost in details? Main idea from RC, this is very vital. Every time you're doing an RC, there's a part of your brain that is focusing a lot of effort on retaining stuff. This is the date, that is the time, this is the venue, this is the theme, this word has been used. You're trying to track that aggressively. The more aggressively you do that, the less you grasp the ideas and themes and reading between the lines from us in RC. So whenever you realize that I'm I focus on everything, I remember all the facts, but which idea what the theme, tone of the author and all that. That means you're spending a lot of time and effort in remembering and retaining and processing while reading. That doesn't work. you have to do quite a bit of non-RC reading. What I mean by that, you're not looking to read a passage and answer questions out of that. नहीं करना, बिल्कुल नहीं करना. You never do that. If all your reading is only RC reading, you're dead underwater. And don't read with the pressure to retain all the time. You'll start hating reading. There are lots of guys who love reading. What do you think they're doing? Trying to process everything, retain everything, know every word? Absolutely not. They like the idea of this thing. They can sit and laugh and smile and think about far off places when they're reading because the book takes them there. Give the book a chance to take you to a different place. Give the article a chance. Rant with the author. If the author is writing a fabulous piece on why this one thing irritates him, should be like, yeah, this irritates the hell out of me. You should connect and read with that enthusiasm, that josh when you're reading good articles, good pieces. So make sure that you have that enthusiasm about you while reading. That can't come if you're completely conscious of remembering. At every stage, if you say, I need to retake this, I need how many places has he listed, then you can't enjoy. So as much as possible, leave out the retention part and go for the getting the theme and entertainment part, the fun part where you laugh and have some fun. Best book for LR section, I think the book by George Summers is good. Try that. Manhattan prep books for verbal section, they're good, but their RCs are slightly different from what you find in Quant, what you find in CAT. Mainly because Manhattan is a GMAT prep house, so their American passages are slightly different. And they focus too much. See, GMAT is about critical reasoning and sentence correction. CAT is not about this. So make sure that you know this when you're using Manhattan prep. Will GMAT material be useful for CAT as well? For verbal section, it is useful. The critical reasoning part is very useful for CAT RC. The sentence correction part sets the base for the grammar questions. But GMAT is a narrow band exam. RC, CR, SC, that's it. None of this other funnier stuff. You have to prepare for this funnier stuff. But the GMAT preparation passages are usually wonderful. So the theme, how you're doing it, that should help. So if you're preparing well for GMAT, you're using good sources, especially for GMAT verbal, then that will pay off for CAT. GMAT integrated reasoning is useful for CAT TI. That's also a good part. That will place your job. What score is required for 99 percentile? We've already covered this. Broadly, attempts of 24 for Quant, 28 for verbal, 16 for DILR. Right? Benchmark numbers based on level of difficulty for the previous two CATs. This CAT could be easier, tougher. Some other section could be tougher. Keep all of that in mind. But with the level of accuracy of close to 100% in Quant and DILR, and maximum maybe 4 or 5 questions wrong in verbal. Shall we rewrite question stem while solving LR? See if you're getting stuck in really tough LRs and rewriting this is useful as a solving exercise, try that. But by the time you're exam ready, you cannot afford to be spending an additional 2 minutes and rewriting everything. You need to process while you're writing. So you can't say I'll read everything, write everything down, and then reprocess. That means it's good, you're going to get it right, but you're spending too much time on that. It's very vital. You cannot afford to spend so much time on all those things. On something like rewriting LR. Should we read question stem in RC, not before the passage? I'm very old-fashioned. Passage first, questions next. These days, questions are rarely objective or fact-based. They're going to ask you about theme and tone and title. You need to read without caring about registering every little bit of detail. You need to read with a sense of just being informed, and then go to the questions. If you see the question, you're carrying that bias. You're looking for that fact. We say between 1950 and 65, what transpired that changed the mindset of the Indo-China relationship? Then you're continuously looking for 1950 to 1965. You're reading the passage. That means you're waiting to think about that, waiting for that word to come. Nobody can process two things at the same time. So if you're waiting for this, then you're not reading with a clean mind. So therefore, you'll be in trouble. If you're continuously fretting about something, your reading is not happy and fun. Listen. Even a lot of questions, I couldn't bring down my time to get a question right. Almost get a question right. See, this is an interesting chart which a lot of providers give for mock analysis. Time spent on questions that you got right, time spent on questions that you got wrong, time spent on questions that you didn't attempt. Usually, this is the one third mark for students who are starting off on marks. It's not speed that is killing you, it is your accuracy and your question selection. Very often, I find students telling me that they attempted 20 questions in quant and got 15 right. They actually need to attempt 25 to get a better score. They don't. You need to attempt 20 and get all of them right. You'll have a rock star score. And so, if you beat down your errors and crank up intensity, improve your question selection, your mock scores will jump and leap out of the place. You don't have to worry about each question speed. That's not as important a metric. How quickly am I solving a speed time question? It won't matter. Two-thirds of your time is going in questions that you're not getting right. That means you're getting stuff wrong or you're spending time on the wrong questions. Beat that down. Speed at an overall level is directly linked to question selection, question elimination, not linked to individual question time. And so if you get the right questions, if you select them right and go for them well, then it won't matter whether you're spending 2 minutes on them or 4 minutes on them or 1.5 minutes on them. Your speed will naturally come. So spend time on question selection, not on this. Right? So finally, next point on accuracy. And I hear a lot of people saying 70%, 80% accuracy. I'll let you in on a secret, the guys who crack this exam out of shape. And they are shooting to get everything they attempt right. There's no talk of 75%, 80% accuracy. That is utter bakwas. If you get 75% of the questions right, and if I assume that only 1 in 2 things you have guessed, everything else you're confidently answering. You're not taking a guess at 1 out of 4. I say C mar diya, B mar diya. That means if you got 75% correct, then that means you got 50% correct on your own. Remaining 50%, 1 and 2 you have guessed, and then you got half of them right roughly with a 75% accuracy. That is nightmarish. That means half the question you don't have any control over. That means you're operating at a speed or trying to operate at a speed that is way higher than your natural speed. There is no trade-off between accuracy and speed. There is none. You need to be frightfully accurate and then build speed. If you say I can attempt 4 more questions but I'll get 2 wrong, mota moti number aa jata hai, then it is wrong. It is the exact wrong way to go about it. You cannot say I will do more questions. I will do some questions more so that even if I get some wrong, my score will be decent. So you cannot afford to do that. So keep that in mind. You cannot operate under the premise that you're going to get some of what you attempt right. That doesn't work. The 70%, 80% accuracy rate is utter tosh. Especially in quant, DI and LR, you're saying I'm going to get almost everything right. By almost, I mean I'm going to perhaps get caught out with one question where the examiner pulled the wool on me, where I thought I got it right, but I'm wrong. But now no guessing. In verbal, there is slightly more ambiguity. You're less certain about everything. Therefore, you can get something wrong in verbal. That can sometimes happen. So in verbal, I'm going to be less forgiving. But in quant and DILR, there's no accuracy rate that you're going for. You're going for 100% accuracy. And that is very, very vital. You get stuff right. You are accurate. You get them right more often than not. Your speed will automatically improve. The funda that there's a trade-off of some sort between accuracy and speed is utter tosh. If you're very accurate, you're frightfully quick. I'm yet to see my 15 years of training students for CAT, someone who's so quick but not accurate. My quickest guys are frightfully accurate. They're anal about it. They're particular about it. They hate themselves if they get a question wrong. And you need to be like that. And then your speed will improve. Your speed will improve because your question selection is better, your scoring rates are better. Your speed will also improve because your accuracy is a vague backhanded driver for speed. Keep that in mind. Right. Rahul Dundi at 97th percentile, 6,000 people with better scores. That's an answer, so I'm not going to try that. Let me see this. Is there any other question? And accuracy and speed, we've had a discussion on. How quickly you should start, that we've had a discussion on. When should I start taking mocks? Yesterday. And so if you've not taken a mock till today, take one as quickly as possible. And so make sure that you take have a very disciplined mock schedule and you go after it relentlessly. Okay. I think I heard two, three guys have asked the same question. How do you improve accuracy rate in verbal? So, two things. One, whenever you're doing verbal, make sure your attempts are in two categories. Ones that you're confident of, and the ones where you're taking a mild chance. When you're analyzing the paper, you should break this and say what I was confident of. Jo maine socha ki I'm getting it right. What is my accuracy there? And the one that I take a chance on, what is my accuracy there? Right? So if stuff that you felt you were confidently attempting, that is going out of whack, you're in trouble, friend. You need to slow down and go back from basics. In verbal, if you're attempting 25 questions and you feel like 15, 16, I've attempted confidently, 8 or 9, I've taken some chance with. In this 15, 16, almost everything should be right. In that 8 or 9, you come back and say maybe something is wrong, and you work with that. How do we improve accuracy rate? This is the most common error in verbal analysis is you mark the answer, you get it right, you get it wrong. You're completely indifferent to the right or wrong. What do I mean by that? You've said you've narrowed it down to B or C. You marked B, answer choice turned out to be C. You see that in there. Maybe C nikla ye to hota hai. That doesn't work. This is a completely objective paper. C is the right answer. The guy who set the paper has planned with C being the right answer and planted a very close B to take you astray. Unless you see that one more time and then say between B and C, C is indeed better. I marked it wrong. I need to keep this in mind. You can't improve next time around. So I have seen so many people take so many mocks, always think of their charts and graphs and percentile trends and all kinds of nonsense crap numbers, but not worried on what is this question that I got wrong and what mistake did I make? Why is my this choice wrong? Usually the close wrong choice is planted. People are planting this choice to make sure that students walk into that trap. And so you're walking into that planted wrong choice. Unless you figure out what idea the examiner has in planting that choice, you're going to walk into it time after time after time. So the way the thought process goes is, I attempt 20, I'll get 8 wrong. So to get a better score, I need to attempt 30. Maybe I'll get only 10 wrong, the score to improve. It doesn't work. So you go from 20 to 30, your error rate will go out of whack. Your first step should be, I attempted 20, got 8 wrong in verbal. Let me see all 8. Next time I'll try to attempt only 18, maybe get only 1 wrong. That's a better score. The moment you get that sense of control on what's happening in verbal, RC and non-RC, your error rate will fall. It has to. You go through the solution. It's extremely tiring. You take a mock and you got 4 questions wrong, but you should say, look, these 4 I got wrong. 3 more I guessed. Those 3 are right. I'll see all 7. I want to see all 7 so that it's not just chance. You can't say 1 in 2 questions, 50% of them I'll get right. This is an objective paper, friends. The guys have set this paper with the idea that only one right answer exists for each of those choice questions. Therefore, you have to have a mechanism of finding the right answer. That means your answer is wrong. It is not close. It is wrong. Usually, the close wrong answer is a plant. Some exaggeration. Maybe, perhaps, always, usually, some adjective thrown here and there that makes that choice just wrong. Unless you go through the solution and find out how exactly the examiner made it just wrong, you're not going to appreciate that close wrong choice next time you get it. The best guys I've seen are the guys who look at that close wrong choice, look it in the eye and say, I know you're tempting me, but you're wrong because of this word. And then go and mark the right one. So that sense of there is something exaggerated here, something wrong here, that will come only if you continuously see the solution and fine tune them. Otherwise, it won't turn up. So keep that in mind. Anytime you have an issue with error rate, analyze your incorrect answers and your correct answers, which were guesses, both of them. Is there a regular interval to take mock? 1 a fortnight is a great place to start. Once a week is where you need to go rapidly. 2 to 3 per week is where you should be ending it. So if you're taking in last month, last 4 weeks, you should shoot to take 10 to 12 minimum mocks. Right? Never take back-to-back mocks, never take 2 mocks in a day. If you're able to take 2 mocks in a day, then you're not throwing enough into a mock. Taking a mock for 3 hours is tiring. I have gone and taken CAT, and I've needed to sit down for a while before taking my vehicle and driving out of the place. I've taken mocks many times, I've created mock papers, I've taken CAT bloody many times, but if I go and take CAT this year, I'll go there, I'll take the full exam, I'll walk out, and I'll be tired. If you're not tired, you're not throwing enough into it. If you do a mock in all earnestness and full seriousness for 3 hours and then review it for 3 hours and then you feel like I'll take one more cat, who are you kidding? You should be in Avengers movies playing Batman or playing Superman. And so you can't take back-to-back mocks, you can't take 2 mocks in a day just to increase your mock count. Don't do all of that. Don't do any of that. And so you need to have more discipline rather than set random targets and go for it. Right? So keep that in mind. I think we have covered more or less everything. We've answered all of these questions in separate videos and links, which are also provided in this thing in the chat. We'll also be giving a bunch of those links in the comment section. So there is a decent chance that most of these questions are answered, if not in this video, somewhere else also, quite likely in both places. And so here you might have to go through the whole video, but in some other place you might be able to just find just the answer you're looking for. Those links also will give with YouTube. Do visit us at online.2im.com. Try out the course. About 10, 12, 15 hours of content available for free. You're all in the last lap of preparation. Go there and see what is available for free. See tough questions. You don't have to pay a dime. Make sure you take value from what is available out there and then do your own evaluation. Anytime you want to have any query, reach out to us. Best wishes for Cat. Make sure you knock this exam. All the best, guys.